What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And as we all know, Donald Trump, the 47th president of the United States. Yeah, it's a good day for America, I can say that. And it's a good day to watch the left act just whinge. They are losing their freaking minds. I was on X for a good part of the day here and there, just a few minutes, and just going through posts and watching the delusions. It's just been great all day long. But I've got a news article for you guys today. Check this out, y'all. Special counsel evaluating how to wind down 2 federal cases against Trump after presidential win. So, Jack Smith is going to be fired almost immediately come January 20th, and these cases are going to go bye-bye, as I kind of figured they would, because these cases, there's nothing to them. They're just filled with delusional garbage that coming from Jack Smith, from deranged Jack Smith. These cases are going bye-bye. We're no longer going to see these cases. Now, we still have Georgia to worry about, and the documents case, as a matter of fact, they appealed the decision to dismiss the case. So that's still wrapped up in appeals, so that's kind of still around. It's still kind of lingering in the background, if you will, but yeah, that case isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to be dropped outright, so we're not worried about that one. We've got Georgia to worry about, which I don't see. Once again, that's another case where they don't really have much to go on as far as Trump. Now, some of the other co-defendants, maybe you might be able to get them on something here and there, but as far as Trump, I'm sorry. Trump doesn't put together electors. That's not how the president works. That's not how a candidate works. That's not how the federal government works. They can't put together slates of electors. He didn't put together slates of electors. State legislatures have to do that, and that's where the other quote-unquote co-conspirators are coming into the game from that. So let's get into this before I ramble on forever, because I'm excited, y'all. I am excited. But once again, I will make you guys this promise. If Donald Trump comes in and starts doing a bunch of garbage that we don't like, I'm going to be right here railing against it. I made that promise to you guys months ago on this channel, and I will live up to that. I will rail against Donald Trump. But what you are going to see is you're going to see a lot of flack from the left. I know I said I was going to get in the news article, but right now I'm just a little bit too excited, so we're going to keep talking here for a second. By the way, if you guys don't mind, smash that like button, subscribe, share this video with anybody and everybody you can, because we need the help right now. We got the momentum, and we need to keep pushing. We need to keep going. We need to grow the channel, because this is where it's at. This is where news is headed. Individualized news stories brought to you right on your phone or your PC or wherever. Right from YouTube, right from people that get it. So, without any further ado this time, I swear, you guys, Special counsel Jack Smith is evaluating how to wind down the 2 federal cases against Donald Trump before the president-elect takes office in light of long-standing Justice Department policy that says sitting presidents cannot be prosecuted. A person familiar with the matter said Wednesday. Now, that's funny. They should phrase it like that, because hang on, presidents have immunity, as a matter of fact. Yeah, you can't go after the president. He has to be impeached for you to go after him. And now that he's president-elect, yeah, I know that really doesn't matter. Let's keep going. I just wanted to interject with my 2 cents. Smith charged Trump last year with plotting to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and illegally hoarding classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate. But Trump's election defeat of Kamala Harris means that the Justice Department believes he can no longer face prosecution in accordance with department legal opinions meant to shield presidents from criminal charges while in office. The person familiar with Smith's plans was not authorized to discuss the matter by name and spoke on the condition of anonymity to the Associated Press. By moving to wind down the cases before the inauguration day in January, Smith and the Justice Department would be averting a potential showdown with Trump, who said as recently as last month that he would fire Smith within 2 seconds of taking office. It would also mean Trump would enter the White House without the legal cloud of federal criminal prosecutions that once carried the potential for felony convictions and prison sentences. You gotta love that. He did say that, and I believe he's going to do it. Regardless, he's going to be fired as a special counsel. Yeah, there's a special counsel's office. I'm sure that special counsel's office might actually even be dissolved. You never know. We never know what's going to go on, but did they really think that they were going to get away with prosecuting Donald Trump for absolutely nothing, for trying to pervert the law and twist it around? No, the people spoke. Very, very powerful mandate from the people. Trump won the freaking popular vote, guys. It's the first time he's ever won the popular vote. And I saw a bunch of seething libs on X earlier. I know I'm trying to get in my ad-libbing here while I can. Talking about, oh, look at all the misogynists out there in the United States nowadays. And I'm like, hang on, dude. Did you forget Hillary Clinton had 2.5 million more votes than Donald Trump? Yeah. Puzzling, to say the least. Smith's 2 cases charged Trump in a conspiracy to undo the election results in the run-up to the Capitol riot, and with retaining top-secret records at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida and obstructing FBI efforts to recover them. But hang on, Associated Press, one thing you forgot to mention is that presidents have the plenary power to declassify records. So, hang on, how can he hold classified documents that he's quote-unquote not supposed to have? Like, I've never had anyone, any lawyer, Justice Department advocate, nobody can ever explain how they can reconcile that presidents can declassify anything. So how do you go after a president for bringing presidential records home? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And the indictment didn't rectify that. Jack Smith never rectified that. The judge in the case, I forget her name right off. She never rectified that. Nobody has ever rectified this because it's garbage. Because they're perverting the law to go after Donald Trump. I mean, for God's sakes, there was an espionage charge originally. It was dropped, but there was an espionage. It's like, what? Espionage, really? And that didn't stop MSNBC, CNN, and all these places from saying Trump took nuclear secrets home. So now we have probably millions of Americans believing that Donald Trump stole nuclear secrets when he really didn't. He was appointed to the position in November 2022 by Attorney General Merrick Garland. Yes, we know this. The classified documents case has been stalled since July when a Trump-appointed judge, Eileen Cannon, dismissed it on grounds that Smith was illegally appointed. That's what she found. And you look at the evidence, yeah, nowhere in the Constitution does it say that you can have a private citizen through the surrogate of the Department of Justice go after another private citizen, much less a former president. Plus, there was a bunch of appropriations issues with that. Smith has appealed to the Atlanta-based 11th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, where the request to revive the case is pending. Even as Smith looks to withdraw the documents case against Trump, he would seem likely to continue to challenge Cannon's ruling on the legality of his appointment, given the precedent such a ruling would create. In the 2020 election interference case, Trump was scheduled to stand trial in March in Washington, where more than 1,000 of his supporters have been convicted of charges for their roles in the Capitol riot. That is nuts, folks, and like we discuss all the time, once again, there was only about 200 rioters. But see, they notice how they worded that, where more than 1,000 of his supporters have been convicted of charges for their roles in the Capitol riot. So they're not outright telling you that these people are Capitol rioters. They're peaceful protesters. That's what they are. And they were arrested and charged with obstruction of Congress, I believe. What was I forget the actual statute, but it was something like that. You know, disruption of an official proceeding, something to that nature. All right, which is garbage. Peaceful protesters that were walking through the Capitol, just peacefully. Right? Like, people tend to forget because the mainstream news constantly tell you about, oh, it was a violent, deadly day. Well, it was only deadly for the Trump supporters, as a matter of fact. But the case was halted as Trump pursued his sweeping claims of immunity from prosecution that ultimately landed before the U.S. Supreme Court. Trump could be emboldened by the Supreme Court's ruling in July, which granted former presidents expansive immunity from prosecution for acts taken in the White House and explicitly put off limits any alleged conduct involving Trump's discussion with the Justice Department. Interesting, like they say Trump could be emboldened. Emboldened? Wonder why they would phrase it that way. That's interesting, isn't it? That included his efforts to use the Justice Department to conduct sham election fraud investigations as part of his bid to stay in power. Now, this is just the Associated Press seething. They want revenge on Donald Trump, as a matter of fact, right? A legitimate election fraud investigation. They're going to call it a sham, right? Where's your evidence, Associated Press, to say that that was a sham? As a matter of fact, there's a lot of evidence that would say, yes, we definitely needed an investigation, as a matter of fact. And he was well within his rights to investigate the fraud in that election because, once again, like I say, every single election there is a little bit of fraud. Now, is it enough to overturn an election? No, probably not. There probably never is. Was there in 2020? I highly doubt it. Now, it depends on your definition of fraud, though. Now, what Democrats did, and like I talk about in my last video, one of my last videos, the shadow campaign video I just redone the other day. By the way, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's going to appear right here at the end of this video. Yeah. What they did, they went around the country to state, mostly battleground states, because that's where the fight really is, to change the rules and change the laws to lax some of the laws to benefit Democrats because they were absurdly getting people to vote by mail, like on a mass scale. In other words, it was just an absurd campaign, if you will, to get out the vote by mail. And this is something interesting that I want to bring up. Look at the vote numbers. Okay, so once again, this is something I always go back to. It's part of the bedrock as to what happened in 2020. Look at the numbers. 81 million people voted for Joe Biden, right? Voted by mail. We were in the middle of a pandemic. 81 million people. That's insane. That's outright insane considering the last presidential election, Democrats only had about 65 million votes. Now, compare that, or juxtapose that, if you will, with this election, the 2024 race. Once again, Trump has got like 72 million, which is comparable with his 2020 numbers, which he had 76 million. And how many did Kamala Harris have? She's got 67 million. So that's, once again, comparable with 2016. Yeah, there was no shadow campaign this time, folks. And we see what happens. Now that we've got those numbers outright, do you guys start to see what happened in 2020? And they say that Trump's claims of voter fraud have been debunked. No, I'm sorry. Like getting people to vote by mail, harassing them, getting activists to go door to door to door in the middle of a pandemic when people are supposed to be locked down, for God's sakes, they're voting by mail to avoid going to a polling location, to avoid exposure to COVID, which I'm not giving any advice. I am not a doctor. Go talk to a medical professional about anything having to do with COVID, because I don't want to get a strike. So talk to a doctor on that. But needless to say, yeah, it's crazy when all the puzzle pieces fall into place and then you can see it outright with the numbers. I just find that interesting. I don't know if you guys did. The conservative majority Supreme Court sent the case back to U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan. That's the name I was trying to think of earlier and couldn't think of it. To determine which of the other allegations in the indictment, if any, could move forward to trial. Yeah, that's a tough one to go through because, once again, he's the president. So you have to parse out what is official acts, what is unofficial acts, and what you can actually go after Donald Trump for. Which, as president, yeah, there's not a lot there that you can go after him for. That's probably the main reason he's going ahead and dropping the case. Because even if Donald Trump would have lost, it's a long shot bid to try to get Donald Trump on the election garbage. Which, once again, folks, like, it was just legitimate challenges from what I can tell, right? Like, all my research is legitimate court cases. Like the whole elector scheme or whatever. Once again, that has to be done by state legislatures and was done by state legislatures. So if you want to go after them, go after them. However, once again, the institutions held, they didn't certify these people. So it's like, what are you going to get them for? Falsifying some documents or something like that? When it wasn't actually Trump to do it? What I'm saying, you can't really go after Trump on this. In response, Smith's team last month filed a 165-page brief laying out new evidence to persuade the judge that the actions alleged in the indictment were taken in Trump's private capacity as a candidate, not as a commander-in-chief, and therefore can remain part of the case. Trump's lawyers are scheduled to file their response later this month. In New York, meanwhile, here we go. This is interesting. Trump is fighting to overturn his felony conviction and stave off a potential prison sentence for falsifying business records related to a $130,000 hush money payment to porn star actor Stormy Daniels just before the 2016 election. It is the only one of his criminal cases to go to trial. Yes, so I imagine what's going to happen with that. But they didn't tell you what that was. Falsifying business records. Right? It's not illegal to pay off a porn star for hush money. It's not illegal to do that. But what he did, his lawyer took out a home equity loan to pay this person off. And this person, of his own volition, admittedly of his own volition, did all this. So Donald Trump says, you did that? Okay, well, here you go. Here's a check. I just paid my lawyer. Once again, and they found him guilty on that 34 times. That's absurd. That case was nuts. That case was conflicted, to say the least, as Trump liked to say. The judge was conflicted. The case was bunk. It was outright garbage. So I imagine what's going to happen in this, now that he's president of the United States. He's probably going to get a suspended sentence. To be honest with you, he's probably going to sentence him to prison, like a year or something like that, and then suspend that sentence. Put him on some kind of probation or something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but that's just my unbiased opinion. Now, what I would like to see is they just throw this case out, right? Because this still has to go to appeals. So I wonder if they might even wait. But that date's coming up in November. I think it's the 19th. So we're going to see what happens. Will they put President-elect Donald Trump in prison for a couple of months before Inauguration Day? You never know, folks. You never know. A judge is expected to rule next week on whether to uphold or toss the verdict in the wake of the U.S. Supreme Court's July ruling that presidents have broad protections from prosecution. Judge Juan Merchan has said he will issue a ruling on Trump's dismissal request on November 12th, 1 week after Election Day. The judge has penciled in November 26th for sentencing, if necessary. Punishments range from a fine or probation up to 4 years in prison. Though Trump technically has no authority as president to shut down a state-level prosecution like the one in New York, his victory nonetheless calls into question that case, as well as a separate pending case in Fulton County, Georgia, charging him with plotting to subvert that state's election in 2020. And I would say good luck with that, Fani Willis. That case is already going down in flames, and good luck to get Trump on any of that stuff. Good luck there, Fani Willis in Georgia. I bet you won't get nothing. I bet that case is going to get dismissed outright. If it does go to trial, he's going to get found not guilty, probably. If they do find him guilty, interestingly enough, that most certainly will get turned over on appeal. Definitely get turned over on appeal because it's garbage. Right? Like, I can't see the falsifying business records case not getting overturned on appeal due to all the due process rights violations of Donald Trump. Like, there were several of those. Not to mention the evidence in the case is scant at best, right? Shaky ground you got to go on there. So I imagine, yeah, that's going to get overturned on appeal for sure. So Judge Juan Merchan needs to come correct. Sentence him to 6 months probation, slap him on the wrist, maybe give him a fine or something, and tell him, bye-bye, have a nice 4 years there, Donald Trump. Because this is all just absurdity on its face. Now, hey, look, I understand. Have your day in court. But, you know, when you have a venue like New York, in Manhattan, where it's D plus like 40 or something like that, when you got mostly Democrats, to say he had a fair trial is absurd. He didn't have a fair trial. That wasn't a jury of his peers. That was a jury of a bunch of Trump deranged lunatics, is what that was. Because anybody that looks at that evidence is going to not be sure of what to do. At best, not be sure of what to do. You know, a hung jury. At best. If not, be like, yeah, I don't know about this. It's definitely not a felony. If they wanted to go after him for the misdemeanor charge, instead of upping it to the felony, you get a conviction all day long. No matter where you go. You could go to the deepest red, the most Trump-supporting district. Bring that very case. And those people would have to convict on a misdemeanor charge of falsifying business records. The evidence is quite clear for that. The felony charge, though, based upon a multiple choice, which, by the way, one of the due process violations was they didn't even tell Trump what those charges were, the uplifting charges to raise it from a misdemeanor to a felony. They didn't even tell him what those were until after the trial started. That's absurd. Just outright absurd. But there's a lot of absurdities when it comes to Donald Trump. The media's coverage of Donald Trump is outright absurd. I don't know why they can't just tell the truth. Why they have to twist the words around. You know, Joe Biden was right. Joe Biden was right. Joe Biden said Donald Trump said there was going to be a bloodbath. And there absolutely was. Kamala Harris got sent home packing, folks. Sent home packing. Outright. And I'm just shocked that Donald Trump won the popular vote. I was expecting Kamala Harris to get 80-something million votes. If not, that would confirm all of my suspicions about what happened in 2020. Confirm everything in that video I just redone yesterday, so please go check that out. But yeah, it's just absurd. And I think that's all I got for this one, y'all. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.